Good morning, happy Tuesday, and happy Halloween. Good to see everybody in the chat. Welcome back to the Daily Grind. I'm your host, Chump Change, live and recorded, and we're just going to go over some news with Sam Bankman-Fried takes the stand over on CNBC television. He actually talked about, I guess, walks the jury through the final days of FTX, which is kind of neat. So I kind of want to hear about that, and they go into a little bit about Bitcoin ATMs as well, which is pretty neat. And then we have another price prediction from Mr. Altcoin Daily on Bitcoin price after the ETF gets approved. And we have Joe Biden unveils a new executive order on artificial intelligence. I want to see what that's all about, actually. Just skimmed across that. It's a video that came out 16 hours ago. So I don't know. Hopefully it gets the eyes off of crypto a little bit and they just focus on that stuff. I think they already kind of confirmed that, but we'll have to see. So all right, before we get into this, see who's in the chat. Mr. Red Panda Mining. Damn, we have a celebrity in the house. Good to see you, buddy. Good morning. We have Carl Coate, Rob Mines, Big Black Snake Mining. Good to see you, buddy. Dom G, FA Crypto Barber. Good to see you, buddy. See who else is here. Patrick Murphy. We have Dumpster Fire, Alexander, Leo Lustig, my man Rud Puts, as always. Let's see. Steven Cicero, Crypto Frank, my man, Mr. Pringle. Good to see you too. And TD. Good morning. All right, let's get into this. Let's see what we're looking like today over here. Wow, my camera just blew out. Crazy. That was weird as hell. Why did that happen? Hold on, I'm turning down lights or something. There we go. Much better. All right, here we go. Bitcoin 34,531. That was weird, man. Never had this camera do that. That's crazy. All right, Ethereum 1812. We have, let's see what else we got. Tons up 8.38%, looking like $2.26. Caspa took a little bit of a dump this morning. Yeah, I did notice that. It's under 5 cents, 4.9. I mean, not too bad. Render took a bit of a hit. It's at 243, a little bit 833 down. Not too bad though. Overall, everything looks pretty good. XRP's at 60 cents. Solana's 36 bucks. Still kicking ass. Let's see. Atom $8. We have XLM 12 cents. Ton, again, I already said that. Dogecoin 7 cents. Not too bad. All right, let's check out the week. So on the week, the biggest earner looks to be this Teo, whatever this is. Yeah, I don't know what this is. Does anybody know what this is? Let me know in the chat. Rune 35.2. We have renders up in the week, but down on the day. It's 12.2%. Realistically, $2.42. It's like almost $1 higher than it was the other week. So can't really complain there. Pepe is still up 24%. Let's check out the day here. Renders down 9.3% on the day. That's crazy. Caspa is down 5.3%. XRP 7.6% positive. Yeah, honestly, everything else is just kind of whatever. ETC is up 3.8%. What's that at? 1745. Not too bad. All right, Fear and Greed Index. Let's check that out. We are at 66. Again, it's not too greedy, but when things start getting in the 70s, 80s, that's when you want to be a little bit fearful and start selling. That's just my opinion. But all right, let's do top 10 coins by coin market cap over on CoinGecko. We have Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tether, BNB, XRP, USDC, Lado Staked Ether, Solana, Cardano, and Dogecoin. Looking at Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, and Shiba Inu are 17th, 18th, and 19th. If anybody's interested. All right, as we are mainly a crypto mining channel, I want to time capsule all of these prices on the Bitcoin miners and what they're making per day, or Caspa miners, whatever may have it. We have the WinMiner K9. This is the most profitable. Apparently, I don't even know if this machine's actually out yet. Does anybody have one of these? Does anybody know? I mean, Panda would probably be the first one to get one if I had to guess, but I don't know if this is a new company or what, but $130 a day. It's a 10.3 terahash machine on the Caspa network. We have still the KS3 from Bitmain is $117 a day. That's the 9.4 terahash. We have the 8.3 terahash, which is $103 a day. Not too bad. The KS2 looking like we're bringing in 23 bucks a day. KS1 $11.99 a day. Man, I feel like that's low. Why does that seem so low to me? Is that really all this brings in now? Wow, that's kind of crazy. Well, I guess the price Caspa is down a little bit, but hey, who knows? I don't know. Let me know if you guys are still interested in purchasing these things. WinMiner didn't respond to any of my socials or emails. Yeah, I have a feeling it's not really legit, but I don't know. I guess we'll have to find out. Looking at the L7. The L7 still making $5.29 a day. This is all at 10 cents per kilowatt hour, by the way. So just take that with a grain of salt, whatever your hourly kilowatt hour is. It's going to change for you, obviously, unless it's 10 cents. We have the 9050. That's what I got, $5 a day. Actually, you know what? I was thinking about that today. I gotta pack up my L7 and ship it down to Terra Hosting so I can get that thing up and mining, because it's driving me nuts. It's not on. The X16Q, we are at $4.73 a day. The KS Pro, which is the 200 gigahash Ice River, $2.45 a day. I don't know why they have this doubled still. They haven't changed that yet. But that's supposed to only pull 100 watts. The original Ice River KS0 is 100 gigahashes at 65 watts, $1.18 a day if you didn't upgrade it. And then the X41U, we're looking like, let's see, 68 cents a day on Octaspace. Damn, I got that thing on actually in my dining room heating my house. All right, let's get into this. We're going to start with CNBC's Crypto World. Like I said, Sam Bankman-Fried walks the jury through the final days of FTX in this trial, and they talk about Bitcoin ATM. So if you guys have any questions, smash that like. Appreciate you for hanging out. Let's do it.
Today, Bitcoin and Ether kicked off the week in the green. Sam Bankman-Fried faces prosecutors' questions in his fraud trial. And Crypto World explores why Bitcoin ATMs are attracting crypto users and scammers alike.
Oh boy, scamming ATMs now.
Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Kate Rooney. Cryptocurrencies are starting the week in the green. Bitcoin rose about 0.6% by noon Eastern. Ether jumped 1.5%, and XRP gained 3.5%. Okay, we are back outside the New York federal courthouse as Sam Bankman-Fried's trial enters its 5th week. SBF, as he's also known, back on the stand today. We started with the defense attorneys wrapping up their questioning. SBF walked the jury through some of the events leading up to the collapse of FTX. That included the events of summer 2022 when Caroline Ellison suggested stepping down as the CEO of Alameda Research, that's his hedge fund. Bankman-Fried said that he told her the decision was hers, but the biggest concern was if Alameda wasn't hedged, there could be some risk that it could go bankrupt. He also tried to clarify his trip to the Middle East back in October of 2022. Prosecutors said that trip was used to raise emergency funds, but SBF says the trip was to speak at a conference and meet with regulators, also meet with investors in person, and some employees based in that region. The questioning from the defense caps off a bunch of testimony we've heard from the crypto founder, including where he admitted there were significant oversights and mistakes at FTX, but he denied defrauding anyone. He also said he doesn't believe he broke the terms of service. He also tried to focus much of the blame on FTX attorneys and some other executives that have testified against him. Now, prosecutors are getting their chance to cross-examine Bankman-Fried. Let's pivot over to Bitcoin for our main story, specifically Bitcoin ATMs. There are thousands of them across the U.S., and they bring in hundreds of millions of dollars per year. Crypto World took a look at the growing demand for some of these machines across the general public and for criminals.
I'm going to put a poll in the chat. I want to know if you guys have ever used a Bitcoin ATM. I personally haven't, so I really don't even know how they work, to be honest. Like, what do they print out just a paper wallet for you? Like, how does it work? Let me know in the chat if you guys know. I'm going to put that poll up now.
You see them in convenience stores, gas stations, and malls. They often look like traditional ATMs, but these kiosks allow customers to buy and sometimes sell crypto tokens in cash. Bitcoin ATMs, or BTMs, exploded in popularity during the height of the crypto craze between 2020 and the middle of 2022, reaching as many as 34,000 across the US at their peak. Many shops with BTMs I spoke to said they see at least one user a day. That surge didn't come from crypto enthusiasts alone. Scammers and money launderers also took notice. So, what's driven this BTM boom? Why is the industry attracting criminals, and how are prosecutors taking action?
What happened was when COVID started in 2020, a lot of people were spending more time at home. That translated into a lot of time spent researching crypto. And I think adoption of crypto just exploded quite a bit early on in the pandemic. And as more people buy crypto, Bitcoin ATMs are a source where you can purchase it.
Brandon Mintz is the CEO of Bitcoin Depot, the company with the largest market share of Bitcoin ATMs across the US. In July, it became the first crypto ATM operator to go public on a major US stock exchange. Let's take a look at their second quarter earnings. Even in today's market, with Bitcoin trading at less than half of its all-time high, Bitcoin Depot's business is still growing. The company brought in roughly $197.5 million, up 17.5% from a year ago.
Bitcoin Depot has had a lack of correlation to the Bitcoin price really ever since we started We've been doing well when the price goes up, down, or stays the same. And we believe that's because our customers have a bit of a different intent on their purchases on average versus customers of online exchanges.
Bitcoin Depot is tapping into growing demand for BTMs, not just as a vehicle to invest in crypto, but an alternative to slower traditional finance.
It does appear a large portion of them may be underbanked or unbanked, and Bitcoin may be a more convenient tool for them to do their everyday transactions in their lives versus using the standard alternative financial services they had been using.
As part of an August 2023 investor presentation, Bitcoin Depot surveyed 625 users and found nearly 40% used the machines to take advantage of crypto's peer-to-peer ecosystem for things like cross-border payments or sending money to loved ones. More than a quarter of respondents also said they used the machines to make online purchases. All told, the Kansas City Fed roughly estimated the BTM industry's annual revenue at more than $3.6 billion, and that's driven largely by fees. Self-reported data from operators on Coin ATM Radar shows common commissions of 15 or 16% to buy Bitcoin, and that doesn't include extra flat fees. That's higher than the fees listed by crypto exchanges to buy Bitcoin, but BTM operators need to factor in the cost of rent, handling cash, and the actual equipment. Still, the industry is attracting more and more customers, but it's also catching the attention of bad actors. In 2021, at the height of the kiosk boom, experts raised concerns over scams and money laundering to CNBC.
I mean, look, you see identity scams, you see romance scams, you see...
Yeah, so I'm so confused. Like, they just feed this friggin' machine money, and what do they give you? A piece of paper with, like, a Bitcoin address on it? Like, here's $20 in Bitcoin? Like, how does it work? I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me. I got to try one. I don't know. I guess I'm looking at this poll in the chat. 12% of you guys, 32 votes, have used them. That's kind of interesting. Let me know how that works, actually.
heists of crypto, using fraudulent access to people's crypto accounts. There are all kinds of scams in crypto, and I think Gary Gensler at the SEC has said it's one of the most scam-intensive areas of finance right now. And that is certainly a problem for people who want to engage in legitimate business, and for
why is his tie so long? Or his pants are up really high.
the legitimate operators of these crypto ATMs who want to create a new business for themselves.
Much like prepaid cards, another popular vehicle for scams, once you send crypto tokens, there's very little chance you're seeing that money ever again. That's just due to the irreversible nature of blockchain transactions. Scammers might gravitate toward these machines if they can convince victims to complete transactions with the added benefit of minimal wait time to receive the funds. In fact, one of the stores I spoke to said they regularly stop customers from becoming victims of BTM scams.
It's unfortunate that the bad guys benefit from the same thing as the good guys, in that you can effect a transaction in as little as 30 to 60 seconds through the kiosk after going through the proper AML and KYC safeguards to effectively go through that transaction, as opposed to setting up an online account with an exchange. There's a much more elongated onboarding process. So if we put ourselves in the shoes of the scammer, they want the transaction to be effected quickly.
Data from Coin ATM Radar showed dramatic drops in operating kiosks here in the US this year. This was
Luke in the chat said these ATMs are all around where I live. He said fees are stupid high though, and up to 2K without KYC. Yeah, so you have to KYC if you go over that limit. That's crazy. I need my COD said you need a wallet address to buy and send it to. I use the Bitcoin ATM to cash out. I can do up to $900 with no KYC. Oh, so it's at one. Oh yeah, I guess it would be at a whack, right? Because they wouldn't really, I guess, be able to add up all of your times at the ATM. I mean, maybe, I don't know. How would that work? Do they take like your address and flag it? Like this one's already taken $900. Like, you can go up to $2,000 and then you have to give them your information before they let it out or something. I don't know. That's kind of neat.
Due in part to the closure of CoinCloud, an operator that went bankrupt. Then there's Bitcoin of America.
On behalf of the Secret Service, I'd like to thank all the law enforcement and criminal justice partners that helped us investigate and prosecute this massive and far-reaching case involving one of the largest country's cryptocurrency ATM operators with over 2,500 ATM machines across 31 states.
Back in March, an investigation by the U.S. Secret Service led to the arrest of 3 people, including the CEO of Bitcoin of America. They were charged with money laundering and failing to obtain the required operating licenses. The Secret Service also mentioned that scammers and robocallers utilize BOA's lack of consumer protections and anti-money laundering measures to facilitate transfers from victims in Ohio and across the US. The company also kept fees paid by customers that they knew were victims of scams. Those averaged around 20%. We reached out to them and didn't hear back. In an effort to combat scams, BTM companies have incorporated notices on their devices in hopes of diverting users from falling victim.
If you were to go to a typical crypto ATM machine, you would see any number of fraud prevention warnings that appear on the screen, letting folks know that, hey, if you were sent here by someone else, if this digital wallet is not in your control, if someone is claiming to be from the IRS and says you have an outstanding tax bill and to pay it in crypto, this is not a legitimate effort to get you to pay a past due bill, that this is probably a scam.
We actually
Straight up warnings on the screen themselves. Yeah, and you know what? Game with Smokey Dan made a good point. He said, remember that ATMs have cameras, and that's true too. They'll always know
have
too.
multiple warnings on our screens at Bitcoin ATMs, warning people for things such as, an IRS tax scam, utility bill scam, etc. And we also have a team of over 50 customer support reps that are trained very specifically to look out for things that our users may say and calls with those reps to further prevent scams.
These safeguards can help some from falling victim, but criminals adapt. And as technology advances, one group stands out as easy targets: seniors.
These criminals that are utilizing AI, it's important to be aware of what's possible out there. They'll end up contacting a grandparent, pretending to be the grandchild and saying, hey, I got arrested while I was in Mexico and I really need you to send money. It has to be done sooner than later. The quickest way to do it is to use a Bitcoin ATM to send it.
Separate reports from the Kansas City Fed and the New Jersey Commission of Investigation warn that kiosks are also being used for money laundering. Operators must register as a money transmitter, meaning they're required to comply with federal anti-money laundering regulation.
In addition to registering, you agree to, among other things, have in place a written anti-money laundering or AML compliance program that articulates your policies, procedures, and controls for how you are going to help the government protect, prevent, and deter potential money laundering through your financial institution, i.e. your kiosk operation. And then the examinations are conducted on a recurring basis.
Despite this law, there have been cases of money laundering using Bitcoin ATMs whose operators were non-compliant. In 2022, Manhattan's district attorney indicted Bitcoin ATM operator Robert Taylor with operating an unregistered money transmitter and tax fraud. Taylor allegedly flew under the radar and advertised the anonymity of his kiosks. The operator's fleet converted more than $5.6 million in cash into Bitcoin across 46 locations, while the operator earned between 10 to 20% of the transactions. The DA said that when one customer complained about the fees to the company's Snapchat account, the reply was, "Bro, we gotta maintain everyone's privacy. It's worth the money." Operators are required to register with federal regulators, but states often have their own rules that can vary widely.
My sense is there's an enormous variation between the different states in terms of how they look at this problem. Some states have a lot of these, some states not quite as many yet, so it's sort of all over the map.
Much like crypto as a whole, a big part of helping the industry mature will be addressing crime.
I think the kiosk operators have matured as a cohort over time. When we hear of new entrants in the space or deal with new clients, many of them come with a lot of knowledge already in terms of compliance requirements and what is expected of them. Now it seems much more of the challenge in terms of business viability. What does it take to be competitive? How do I compete with some of the larger players out there that have several years head start, have brand awareness, and are in multiple markets?
The industry is seeing consolidation, where bigger players are buying out smaller operators.
Actually, part of our strategy now that we are a public company is to acquire some of those small Bitcoin ATM operators. And part of the reason is because they don't have the resources to operate their businesses compliantly in some cases.
As we've moved forward, we've seen...
Now, I have a question, right? Does anybody know, is there any other cryptocurrencies you can get out of these ATMs, or is it just Bitcoin? Because if it's just Bitcoin, I really don't see this lasting that long. I mean, maybe, but people are going to use Bitcoin as a store of value. They're not going to want to spend it. I mean, maybe buy it. Yeah, it's convenient to purchase it, and that's it. But, like, I don't understand. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird to me, to be honest.
More and more consolidation with the larger players getting bigger, but I think that there's still an opportunity for upstarts and smaller players to either grow and scale, or for those that have been on the fence thinking about getting in the industry to consider an investment and possibly compete.
So, all right. So, Dan R. Well, shout out to CNBC Crypto World for that. Let's see. So, hold on. Let me switch screens here. Let's see. Dan R. said the BTC ATM prints you out a paper wallet if you don't have a BTC wallet. To buy BTC, you have to scan your paper QRC code on the paper. Just don't lose that paper. That's kind of sketchy. That's so sketchy. Because what if they just give you like, what if somebody hacked the machine and gave you a friggin', you know, I don't know, a scammer's like address, and now you're sending your shit to, you know, whoever, a Nigerian prince, as Patrick Murphy and Rob Mines say in the chat. That's hysterical. All right, let's get into this. We have I want to see what this is all about, and then we'll get into Altcoin Daily's video. So Joe Biden unveils a new executive order on artificial intelligence. This was a video from 16 hours ago, and I kind of want to hear what they're talking about. So this is quite interesting. I'm gonna get the eyes off of crypto for a bit, because AI is gonna be way bigger deal than that. So let's get into it. If you guys have any questions, just at me in the chat.
The White House rolling out a sweeping executive order today aiming to monitor and regulate the risks of artificial intelligence while also harnessing its potential. This marking the latest effort to address the rapidly evolving technology that has sparked concern among world leaders. Here to discuss is Nilay Patel, editor-in-chief at The Verge, and James Pethokoukis, economic policy analyst at the American Enterprise Institute. They're both CNBC contributors, by the way, and Eamon Javers, you know him. He's going to give us the latest from D.C. Eamon, why don't I kick it off with you? What did this executive order say?
Well, Tyler, it's a kind of a kitchen sink executive order from the Biden administration today. They're addressing a whole host of things and bringing in all sorts of elements of national power here, so to speak. They're using the Defense Production Act here in order to compel companies that are engaging in large-scale AI to share with them their safety testing results. That is, they'll have to come to the U.S. government and tell them how these things are testing. They're also going to invoke some standards and rulemaking procedures. They're also concerned about things like discrimination in AI and trying to make sure that there are federal guidelines around making sure that discrimination is not built into AI accidentally, so to speak. So it's a whole range of things here, and at the same time trying not to sort of squash innovation and the development of this new technology, even as they're trying to channel some of the safety and negative consequences of it.
All right, Nilay, what do you think of what the administration has proposed here? How sweeping is it? How effective might it be?
It is very sweeping, and it is pretty much a grab bag of things that, in particular, the industry has been asking for. And when you talk about effectiveness, we have a pretty dysfunctional Congress. We have the invocation of various executive authorities to make some of this go. But the place that's going to be the most effective is in letting the companies run. They have been asking for regulations here because they want to focus their competitive efforts in a dramatically expanding space. So if you know that if you're going to make an algorithm for landlords to screen potential tenants on a website, well, now there's some rules of the road, and the companies know inside of which boundaries they need to compete, and they can compete ferociously. So, you know, Microsoft, Adobe, Google, they have been asking, OpenAI have been asking for regulations like this. I think this is going to give some stability to the market, and we'll see another wave of competition.
So let me turn to, let me ask you one more question, Neil, before I move on. This idea of somehow watermarking AI-generated content, is this doable?
That's watermarking AI content. Is that like, well, what's that going to prevent? That just means the scammer is going to remove the watermark. What?
I haven't seen anything that says it is doable yet. Last month at the Code Conference, which obviously CNBC helped us out with, I had the CEO of Getty Images, Craig Peters. He said, look, the problem is not marking the good stuff. The problem is finding the needle in the haystack. And the haystack keeps getting bigger with all of the AI-generated content we see in our feeds. So you got to develop some technology to actually consistently mark the content in a way that regular people understand what they're looking at and everyone agrees to use. And then you got to convince a bunch of people to care. I would put that right up against Mark Zuckerberg on the last Meta earnings call saying, I can see a future where our feed-based products have as much AI-generated or edited content as anything else. That's the future of these networks. whether or not a little bit of watermarking can stem that tide, I think technologically remains to be seen. Culturally, wide open. No idea if that can happen.
James, I'm also
crazy. Real quick, guys. Dan R actually in the chat said, don't forget the Flux parallel asset snapshot is today. So I guess it's BTC Flux. I don't know. So if anybody's interested, don't forget.
I'm curious about this angle here on international, where it says developing standards for working on AI with foreign partners. For instance, I think some of the options would be disclosure if a major other nation comes and says we want to do a big we want to run your large language models, things like that. What kind of international disclosure do you think is appropriate and why?
Well, one, I'm concerned that some of the countries that might potentially be involved, who are competitors, perhaps military rivals, may not be utterly forthcoming. I'm very concerned that these kinds of disclosure rules will rapidly become both internationally and domestically mandatory rules, not just to mandate disclosure, but mandate how these things are tested. Listen, we've been talking here about that this is like a gift to business. They're going to be so happy. Well, the people who may not be happy are businesses, companies, startups that don't exist yet. That now will have to compete with perhaps a highly regulated, paperwork-intensive, costly regulatory scheme that just a few weeks ago, it seems like, was voluntary. Now there's mandates. Now there might be more mandates on the kinds of testing. I think what we're seeing here is really a wholesale change in how America regulates digital technology markets, when our previous way, which is a light regulatory approach, gave America a lead in digital technology, and all the big important technology companies, I'm not sure doing something else is a great idea.
Eamon, I assume that the Biden administration wouldn't see it that way. They would say that they're just doing what they see as responsible and not using too heavy a hand here.
Yeah, look, their argument is you can't have the Wild West here in terms of AI because there are safety concerns that you have to think about with AI getting potentially out of control, AI involved in bioscience, AI involved in national security. And so you do need some rules of the road. And to Jimmy's point, yeah, that creates increased costs and increased friction for startups and smaller companies in particular. But I think if you ask the Biden administration, they would say, this is something that we just have to do with this new emerging technology. We have to give some rules of the road here in order to prevent all these negative consequences from being built into the AI industry from the beginning.
All right, gentlemen, for now,
they made like 7 Terminator movies. No one ever said, boy, I wish we had a light touch regulatory framework.
The concerns are science fictional. The concerns are science fictional at this point. Let's make
so
that
to be clear, so Nilay, you think that we needed the regulatory framework to prevent the Terminator ending, and James, you think if we get the regulatory framework, that ushers in apocalypse now?
No, here's what I think, is that this entire effort is based on one kind of like regret that social media isn't more heavily regulated. I don't think that necessarily is a great idea. Or they're science fictional. These are science fictional concerns influenced by culture about the idea of AI convincing us to create killer pandemics. And now we're going to, this embryonic industry, we're going to submit to put it into the loving embrace of America's administrative state. And I don't think there's enough focus on harnessing this technology rather than what we can do to slow it down.
If you look at the embryonic industry, it is billions of dollars worth of research and development over decades to get to a point where you have a GPT-4. This is not new technology. This is stuff that has been building for a long time. And it is the people who are building
Given where it could go, it's embryonic.
Who are the most negative about its
Given
potential.
where it could go, it's embryonic.
They're the ones saying we need this. They're the ones saying this could end the world.
Yes, the established players and the incumbents are saying we need this. That's a very old story.
Is saying, here's an executive order based on the Defense Production Act. This is the lightest of light touch. The next president can wipe this away with a pen.
The voluntary commitments a month ago.
This isn't a new regulatory.
Now it's a little bit heavier.
I didn't hear the last point.
Well, I understand that you want to live in like anarcho-capitalism, but this saying, hey, you got to do some red teaming exercise and be transparent, and we should figure out how to tell people if they're looking at real images or AI generated ones, which, by the way, I don't even know if it's possible. That's not a lot, right? And it's the industry that has asked for these rules so they can go compete
I'm not impressed by
without
that.
being worried about being undercut by less moral competitors.
Right. Well, gentlemen, this
I'm not impressed by industry asking to be regulated. You are very impressed by that. I am not. It's a very old story of incumbents saying regulate us, and then we'll use our Washington offices to work and shape that regulation to our advantage. It's an old story. You may never have heard of it, though.
This is slowly turning into a Saturday Night Live where people just talk over each other.
Gentlemen, we will continue this. Good conversation. Nilay Patel and James Pethokoukis, we thank you. And the relatively quiet Eamon Javers. Eamon, thank you as well.
Shout out to CNBC for that. Oh my God, that was brutal. So where's the best place to sell off Flux parallel assets, says Mr. Mad Electron. I don't know. I don't care about Flux parallel assets, I'm gonna be honest. I care less. I probably have a bunch of them, and I never claim them. I don't know. That's just me, but whatever. To each his own. All right, let's go over this exact Bitcoin price after the BlackRock ETF. This is 12 hours ago. Smash that like button, guys. Appreciate you all. This is over Altcoin Daily. I do have a full video link in the description below. Feel free to go check it out. Let's do it.
Okay, look at this. Understand this. There are a lot of spot Bitcoin ETF applications out there. Everyone is excited about BlackRock, of course. But besides BlackRock, we have ARK Invest, Bitwise, Invesco, WisdomTree, Valkyrie, VanEck, Fidelity, and even more than just this. When one of these gets approved, they're all going to get approved. That's a lot of demand on the price of Bitcoin. Now, will these get approved? Yes. Understand that because of the landmark grayscale win with the SEC, as you recall, in August, the DC Court of Appeals ruled that the SEC's denial of Grayscale's investment application to convert the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, GBTC, into an ETF was invalid and must be reviewed, calling it an arbitrary and capricious rejection. I've always thought of Gary Gensler as a bit arbitrary and a bit capricious. But
looks like a penis with ears. Mr. Crypto Frank, good to see you, buddy. Appreciate the super chat. 1999, he said, I did the math to show an investor why BTC is the future, and it was simple. Apple split 5 times in these ways: 4-to-1, 7-to-1, 2-to-1, 2-to-1, 2-to-1. If you reverse that and divide it by the current value of Apple, one stock is worth more than $37,000. Wow, that's interesting. I'm literally gonna save that because I want to see how you did that math. That was neat. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Mr. Crypto Frank, for the super chat.
because of this landmark win for Grayscale, it's going to make it very hard for Gary Gensler and the SEC to deny one of these spot Bitcoin ETFs. And like I said, if one of these is approved, they're all going to be approved. Anthony Scaramucci, who we just had on for an interview, believes this. He articulates exactly this here.
Skybridge will have a position in the BlackRock ETF.
And give us the, the tea on what exactly is going on. Is that coming soon? What do you think?
Shout out to Rud Puts as well. Perfect. Thank you so much for the super chat. 249 Hero. He said AI is coming. OCP. What does OCP mean? I don't know what that means. RoboCop, Mad Max is real. Appreciate the super chat, buddy. Let me know what that means. I have no idea what OCP means.
So I don't know. I think, unfortunately, Gensler is going to try to exhaust everything he can to delay it as long as possible before he actually approves it. But I do think it gets approved because I think that Grayscale court case was seminal, and I don't see how Gary or his team gets around that court case.
And the fact that the conversation around a spot Bitcoin ETF is now when, no longer if, it's now when. This is a huge deal. This is a massive shift from even just a year ago.
No one really knows when we're going to get approval. So you're seeing a lot of speculation. You're seeing a lot of commentary. They're using best efforts, like things like the fact that the commission hasn't put up significant roadblocks in disclosure review, et cetera. But again, I think people, even the fact that we're here talking about when as opposed to if, that's a massive shift from even a year ago. And that is, I think, one of the biggest driving forces of all of this excitement.
Let's talk about
Mr. Alltrack said OCP was a mega corporation with divisions affecting nearly every level of consumer, needs, society, and government. Interesting. I didn't know that at all. Mr. 56, perfect. Thank you for the $5 super chat. You're awesome with a bunch of ramen noodles. Appreciate you, buddy.
Price. And first, I want to remind you why. Why exactly is this such a huge deal for the price of Bitcoin? First, listen to Rand Nooner of Crypto Banter explain this exact concept to me here.
Everybody says that this BlackRock spot ETF is a huge deal. Is it like really that huge of a deal? Could you help us understand like why, like if this gets approved, why this is going to be so big?
I think in this same exact video right here with this guy Rand, he's like, I don't like to do price predictions of Bitcoin because it makes him look bad or some shit. As there is a, if you can see, 600K by 2025 thumbnail in the background of his green screen setup he's got here, which is hysterical.
So ETFs give investors a simple way to get into asset classes. And if you think about ETFs, the people that sell the ETFs are the wealth advisors. The wealth advisors manage most the capital in the world and in the United States. And if you let me share my screen again, I'll actually show you a few things here. So that is like, if you look at the wealth advisors in the world, that is in the States, this is what they specifically manage. So BlackRock manages 9.5 trillion, Vanguard 8.1 trillion, Fidelity 4.3 trillion. And so the list goes on and on. Right now, if you're a wealth advisor, and you believe that you want to be in Bitcoin, and the reason why you may want to be in Bitcoin is because Bitcoin's been the best performing asset class. How do you get your investors into Bitcoin? What's your entry point? How do you do it? One way is that you can be a custodian yourself and try and store the private key somewhere or the 12 magic words somewhere, but that's quite negligent. You could open an account on Coinbase, but most big funds aren't regulated to be able to open an account on Coinbase. You could buy shares in Grayscale's Bitcoin Trust, which is not really an ETF, but it's illiquid. It's traded on what they call an over-the-counter market. So what happens when you introduce an ETF is you open up the world to the fund managers who meet with their clients regularly to be able to put Bitcoin into their portfolios. Okay, now what does that do? Well, now you get the average advisor, and whether the advisor is a big pension fund or whether the advisor is an endowment or whether it's just an advisor who plays golf with high net worth individuals, and he says to them, you know, this Bitcoin thing, it's gone up 83% in the first 6 months of the year, and it's still 50% off its all-time high. And, you know, maybe we should just put 2% of our portfolio. And then what happens is it becomes like switching a switch, like all the rest of the investment products in the world. It's not a hard sell. Right now, you imagine that same game of golf with that same fund manager wanting to go into Bitcoin. And he's thinking, if my client tells me to get into Bitcoin, what the hell am I going to do? Like, I'm going to open an account at BitGo and I don't know how to custody this thing. And, you know, the truth is also investment managers earn a fee for selling investment products. So it's like, you know, if an investment manager sells a fund, he typically earns a fee. Now, those fees are quite regulated. But going forward, they'll be able to earn a small fee for putting you into the Bitcoin ETF. So they kind of have a small incentive to do that as well. So I think it is a big deal.
And now listen to...
That's kind of neat, actually. I didn't think about that. They get like a commission to actually get you to purchase, you know, ETFs or whatever you invest in, right? Life insurance, yada, yada. The financial advisors always get some sort of, I guess, kickback, right? Little Time Mining, thank you so much for the 199 super chat. Hail to the good times. So will we see 69K ×2 top? I'm not sure if we'll see a double top, right? Like not I wouldn't say double top, it's not what it's called, right? But 2 times the all-time high. I don't think we would see that right away. I think we're gonna struggle once we get to the 100K to 120K. I think that will probably be a real big selling point. But again, I'm not a trader, so I'm not really positive. But I think we could definitely get up there at some point. And real quick before we continue this, I want to show you guys this. I would like you guys, I'm going to share this in the chat actually, but right here, Trade Ogre's been having some issues with Caspa, and I would like to see if you guys could retweet this and like, let's get a goddamn answer from them. Why can't we get Caspa off of their damn platform? So I'm going to put this in the chat. I did retweet that, Mr. Red Panda's post. There is that. If you guys could, please retweet that. Let's get these people to friggin' answer us because we don't know what the hell's going on over there, and it's kind of ridiculous, to be honest.
Bitwise, one of the ETF applicants, explaining why Bitcoin price is going to moon after the approval themselves. Here, listen.
Bitcoin ETF is a huge unlock for investors who haven't been able to allocate to Bitcoin or to crypto as an asset class for its past 15 years in existence. So that's why we think at Bitwise, a Bitcoin ETF is the biggest thing to happen to Bitcoin since it was created in 2009. 80% of wealth in America hasn't historically had access to Bitcoin. So we do think that the upcoming spot Bitcoin ETF is going to be a huge influx of demand. And like you said, it's a commodity. Its price is set by supply and demand. And we see a clear sign that demand will be climbing in the near to long term.
What will these Bitcoin, I gather BlackRock has an application out there. Wisdom Tree may have an application. There are probably others. What will these ETFs actually own? Physical Bitcoin? Or
yes.
I mean, it's not physical, it's digital, but.
Yeah, so these spot Bitcoin ETFs will own the underlying Bitcoin itself. People will allocate into these ETFs. The ETF will go out and purchase Bitcoin on the market. And that's exactly why we think it's so bullish for the price of Bitcoin, is because you're going to have this constant influx of demand on Bitcoin as an asset. So it'll hold the underlying asset. That's why people are so excited about a spot Bitcoin ETF, because it's the first time that you've been able to own the underlying asset in this ETF wrapper. So for every dollar goes into an ETF for spot Bitcoin, a dollar of Bitcoin will be bought off the open market.
Okay, let's get into this. We're sure a BlackRock spot ETF will be approved. We're sure many spot ETFs will be approved. It's only a matter of time.
Oh, look at his chart here. So he's got the levels more or less, 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, right? So people are weird. I mean, humans by nature, right? We like even numbers. It's just one of those things. Like, you put sell orders in, most people are going to do like an even number or a 5, right? That's pretty much how it goes. Like, if you're going to sell something, you know, it's going to be 25 or 50. It's not going to be like 27.2, right? So it's just one of those things. 100 grand is like most people's selling point. Is going to be just a complete sell wall. It's either it's going to get stopped there or it's going to blow right through it. That's pretty much how it's going to go. And it's going to get, if I had to guess, again, around 120K, right? People either do 95,000 or like 115 or 119. That's pretty much what I would think is going to happen if we get up to this $100,000 mark. It just makes sense. That's just, again, humans are, we trade off of nature, or we put stop or sell orders in by how we feel with even numbers. It's really just one of those things. I mean, I was talking to my wife about this the other day, and she's like, you know, that's kind of funny. And she's like, yeah, I always buy like, I forget what it was. It was like 2 or something. If she's going to, it always has to be like an even number if she's going to purchase something. And it's again, just one of those things. It's what we do. Do you guys all feel the same way? Is that how you guys trade and stuff? Let me know in the chat.
We understand how big of a deal this will be for demand of an asset that has such limited and fixed supply flow. So, what will happen to price? First, I want you to understand that Bitcoin is like digital gold, or gold is like analog Bitcoin. Larry,
yeah, it's psychological. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
Thinks Bitcoin is like gold.
Also, I do believe the role of crypto is it's digitizing gold in many ways. Instead of investing in gold as a hedge against inflation, a hedge against the onerous problems of any one country, or the devaluation of your currency, whatever country you're in.
That's a good point. You know what? Endless Mining just said that. He said, don't forget it's in USD, 100K, but also in euros. And that's correct. So it's a little bit, what is it? A little bit more than the US dollar, 100K?
Be clear, Bitcoin is an international asset. It's not based on any one currency. And so it can represent an asset that people can play as an alternative.
Other experts, shared by Michael Saylor, here entrepreneur and VC Alexis Ohanian.
That's so funny. I was just going to say this when he was just talking about gold. Because, I mean, this guy literally straight up says we can find gold. Well, we might be able to find gold on an asteroid, but we're never going to find Bitcoin on an asteroid, which is 100% true.
Explain Bitcoin is like gold.
You know, to me, Bitcoin has never felt really all that different from gold. You know, if you explained to me that gold was a really important part of human culture, I'd understand it. As an Armenian, I know, I for whatever reason, just love gold. We have a cultural affinity for this shiny piece of metal, the shiny rock. And it's been built over years and years and years. And there are plenty of investors who won't touch it because they feel like it's not a great asset. But there's a whole heck of a lot of people who have a strong cultural affinity for it. And I think Bitcoin is in a similar camp. Maybe it's a different generation. Maybe it's more sort of technology-oriented folks. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm investing in asteroid mining companies And one thing I'm certain of is we're never going to find a bunch of new Bitcoin on an asteroid. There's a bunch of precious metals we will end up finding. But at the end of the day, it's a kind of asset that requires a sort of conviction in it as a store of value. And for a whole heck of a lot of people, there has been, at least as of yesterday, another flight to it. But look, I invest with the long-term horizon. That's one of the nice things about this job is I don't have to worry about markets day to day or hour to hour. I make every investment with at least a 10-year time horizon.
So we know that when the gold ETF first happened in around November 2004, this is what happened to the price of gold.
Holy shit. Look at that chart. That's crazy. The first US gold ETF in 2004. Look at the freaking skyrocket of that. That's crazy. So it was at about $400, right? This line. Yeah, it's like it was under $400 an ounce. I assume this is how that goes. I go by ounces. I don't even know. But regardless, straight up to $1,700 in like a couple of years. That's nuts.
Gold was just coming out of a bear market. Gold rallied 420% after approval. By the way, it did a lot more than this as time went on. Now, of course, Bitcoin is way more volatile and scarce than gold. But if the BlackRock ETF was approved today and Bitcoin did a 420% increase, that would put Bitcoin's...
It would be about a 4x. That was a 4x on gold. In like, I think it was 2004, it was 6 years. It took 6 years. It said 2010, if I'm not mistaken.
Price at around $130,000. A $130,000 Bitcoin, very possible. I tend to be a bit more bullish though. I tend to think that Bitcoin will be grinding closer to all-time highs when the ETF is approved, because I don't think the ETF is going to get approved tomorrow. I think Bitcoin will be grinding closer to all-time highs, and if Bitcoin did a 420% increase from a slightly higher price, that would put Bitcoin at a price between $200,000 to possibly over $300,000.
Please,
so
I would love
prepare
that.
yourself now. By the way,
Wouldn't we
make
all?
sure you subscribe to our channel. Daily videos just like this, keeping you informed on the entire cryptocurrency market. If you're interested in making money in cryptocurrency, subscribe to our channel.
Gotta stop
Daily
saying that.
videos. Guys, it's just math. Continue digging in to what the experts are saying, because the experts do know what's going on. Anthony Scaramucci, who's in on the BlackRock ETF with them, is equally bullish, if not more bullish. Make sure you subscribe. I'll see you tomorrow.
And final question on BlackRock, just for the people at home who don't really understand what a spot Bitcoin ETF, particularly like by BlackRock, means. Is everybody in crypto says it's like the great savior for price. Is it that big a deal, or how big a deal is it?
Before he starts talking, Little Time Mining said, what's 4x of 15.5K? Andrew Masad said 62K. So that's pretty close to the all-time high. So that's what could happen after the ETF, which is pretty neat. That's pretty neat, actually. That's real close to the all-time high, like almost to exact numbers.
I think it's a huge deal.
Because it was a little over 4.
I'm not just saying that because I'm a Bitcoin bull. I'm going to give you the empirical data as to why it is. Number one, 35 years on Wall Street. And what do we know about Wall Streeters? Products are sold, they're not bought. There will be an army of people, salespeople, financial consultants, financial advisors, private bankers that will have digital assets as part of their long-term tactical capital allocation portfolios. BlackRock's not going to have $13 trillion under management and have $0 under management in Bitcoin. They're just not going to do that. So what's going to end up happening is you'll have armies of people selling this to people. And then people will say, okay, well, what's your strategy? I'm going to have this much in stocks, this much in bonds, this much in real estate, this much in private equity. Well, what's your digital asset strategy? Well, I'm going to have 0.5% to 2% in digital assets. So think of the magnitude of that. If there's $100 billion that flows into Bitcoin, the guys at NYDIG or Fidelity think that could have a 11 times factor in terms of valuation. So you could see Bitcoin go from a $600 billion asset to a $6 trillion asset. And by the way, if that were to happen, it'd still be half the price of gold.
That's nuts. That's nuts. Bitcoin's going to be huge, guys. It's crazy. All right. 3 mil in the chat actually had a question. So I want to show you guys this. You know what? Hawk Crypto actually made a great video that he probably needs some more recognition for. So this is how I found out. If you guys aren't subbed to Mr. Hawk Crypto Mining, go check him out. But scrolling down here, right, this is Newegg. You guys all know this, right? Up at the top, actually, let me click back. So right here, there's a trade-in button or a whatever tab, right? Click on that. And then scroll down. So this is a great way to find what you guys should be paying for GPUs if you see you know, one on like Craigslist or whatever the case may be, you know, Let Go or whatever those apps you guys use. This isn't so good for sellers. This list sucks for sellers. Let's put it at that, right? But for buyers, you guys can gauge what you should be paying for GPUs that are used and all that, right? So estimated trade-in value, they have like, you guys can trade in, you know, a 3070 8GB card for $209, right? That's, I don't know how this actually works. I think you're only allowed to use one trade-in per purchase or something along those lines. But regardless, again, we're just using this to gauge how much you should be paying for, say, this RTX 3070 8GB, right? $209. You have a 3090 Ti 24 gigabytes, $561, right? So this is like a really good way to just kind of gauge what you should be paying for. So that was a question in the chat. I just wanted to get that out there. So I'm going to throw this in the live chat if you guys are interested. That's probably the best way to, yeah, this is the best way to do it, at least in my opinion. I mean, you can see AMD GPUs and NVIDIA GPUs. It's pretty much what they're worth. That's how I would do it. Makes the most sense to me, right? So let me know what you guys think about that list. And again, go check out Hawk's video. He actually talks about it a little bit more. All right, guys, that's going to do it. I got to get back to daddy duty. And today is Halloween, so I got to get my kids all situated for the day. And yeah, hopefully you guys have a great, safe, happy Halloween. Don't get hit by cars. Don't drink too much. Pulling the kids around in wagons. You know, the whole nine. Have a good day. I'll catch you guys bright and early tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., 8:15 or so Eastern Standard Time. And until next time, peace. Catch you then.